Let's talk to Sarah Hursthouse, though, because a terrible story happened late yesterday afternoon. A woman in her 50s was pronounced dead at the scene of her own home in Hornchurch in East London. Two registered XL bully dogs at her home had apparently mauled her to death. Armed police officers were among those who attended to try and get the dogs safely out of the house. And so, Sarah, we come to you today to find out how this could be still happening. Sarah, very good morning.
Good morning to you.
I mean, obviously, this woman did everything she was supposed to do. She registered the dogs. I don't know whether they probably weren't muzzled at the time. They were inside the house. But, you know, once again, we find ourselves asking the question about this particular breed of dog.
Yes, that's correct. They had followed the requirements, apparently, in that the dogs were registered. They wouldn't be required to be muzzled in the house or on leads or any other precautions like that, which does, in fact, show that the legislation that was brought in isn't really fit for purpose. It doesn't address the issues at all. I find that the majority of incidents with dogs can be dogs escaping from the house, so people leave the door open or a gate open. You know, the legislation wouldn't address that. What we need to do is get to the breeders, the people who are breeding irresponsibly without any thought for health and safety and temperament of these dogs.
Yes, I mean, anyone who owns one of the dogs has to have them neutered as well, have it microchipped too. It's not clear whether that was the case here, but presumably if you neuter it, that's with a view to making it slightly less aggressive, is it?
Well, there's a lot of debate on that subject. It's not necessarily the case. There is plenty of evidence to suggest that in some dogs, particularly dogs who are suffering from anxiety-related issues, that neutering can actually exacerbate that situation. So just neutering a dog doesn't necessarily mean there are any improvements to the behaviour. The legislation was just simply a paperwork exercise, really, and didn't pay any regard to whether that dog was safe or not. The criteria is, for example, that a female, if she measures 19 inches at the wither, is by law deemed to be a dangerous dog. If she measures 18.5 inches at the wither, she's not a dangerous dog, which clearly doesn't make any sense at all.
No, it doesn't. So, I mean, do you think the government revisit this legislation and see whether there can be something more appropriate put into place? I mean, I'm not sure what you can do. If you've got dogs which are likely to attack their own owner, I don't know what you can do about that.
Well, it is a very, very difficult question. I definitely think it needs to be addressed. All the leading canine welfare organisations throughout the UK were completely against this legislation being brought in and advised the government accordingly, but it went ahead anyway. But what the answer to the question is much more difficult. I once attended a symposium for an entire day, attended by police, lawyers, behaviourists, vets, etc. And the question was, what do we do about dangerous dogs? At the end of the day, a full day of brainstorming, we didn't actually come up with an answer, because whatever we do come up with, then that brings further questions of who is going to fund it, who is going to administer it, who is going to police it. This is the difficulty, but it's definitely needs to be aimed more at the irresponsible breeders rather than responsible owners who may have bought a dog in good faith, but it's come from somewhere where they've not paid any regard to its breeding and have ended up in an awful situation like this one. Yeah,
absolutely tragic, dreadful. Thank you very much indeed, Sarah Hursthouse there, dog trainer and canine behaviourist. Another terrible tragedy involving these ghastly XL bully dogs being still bred, apparently, by irresponsible breeders.